Hey.
This is WPwatercooler episode number 386, customizing your WordPress dashboard.
Hey.
Brought to you by ServerPress, makers desktop server that make local WordPress development easy. Check them out at serverpress.com.
Hey.
Or us over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler.
Hey.
I'm Jason Tucker. I'm an IT director. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
I'm Steve Zengit. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
I'm Say Reed, and I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media on all the things.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg. Hey.
Hey.
Follow us as a podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Go take a look at that and let us know what we're doing over here. We'd appreciate that. Guys, I changed the dang song.
We know what we're doing over here. So
I changed the song so you don't have to say hey anymore.
Oh, we'll always say hey.
Hey is our,
and the transcript is always the funniest because the beginning of it just says hey, 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 hey over and over again.
We live to make your transcripts better.
Oh my god. Hey.
Yeah, the captioning's always so jacked up. I love it.
Oh, that's funny.
My goodness. So yeah, so today we're going to be talking about customizing the dashboard. This is something near and dear to me currently, and so I thought we would just do a self-fulfilling thing of figuring out how to customize that dashboard and how to do some cool stuff with it.
Just install Adminimizer and walk away. It's the best plugin in the repo.
Oh, that's it. All right. Well, hey,
wait. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Just kidding.
And we're out.
And that's it.
So what things can people do to customize it? Like what are we looking at first?
Well, actually, when you mentioned this topic, before we start talking about this, I was like, this is one of those kind of low grade things that isn't always the highest priority because you just go past the dashboard. But I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. So when you proposed this concept, I was like, yes, let's talk about this because there's so much junk in there for the user. And, I like looking at the profiles in WordPress and the WT Tavern articles and stuff, but that's just visual noise for the user who's going in there. And there's, so much has been taken over the dashboard in general, like the admin, the banners people do on the top and whatever. But the landing page dashboard, is something everyone sees. And it is really, it's like prime real estate. And it is just a bunch of stupid meta boxes that have kind of useless stuff in them.
So are we talking about the admin interface or the dashboard tab within the admin interface?
Oh, I thought we were talking about the tab, the actual dashboard itself.
Because it's confusing. That's why I'm asking, right? When I think of the dashboard, I think of the admin interface. But there's also, and I call that the dashboard, but there is a tab called dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The actual dashboard when you first land on the page, so
we're talking about that dashboard tab.
The dashboard.
The landing screen of the admin interface.
Not the dashboard, but the dashboard.
All right, so then I retract what I said about Adminimizer.
But it's good. It's good to note that though, because one of the things regarding that is the fact that because of the fact that it lives right next to all of those dashboard menu things on the left-hand side, Adminimizer is great for being able to clean all that crap up. So you could be like, you know what, this person, you don't need to have this. This person, you don't need this either, and just kind of clean up all those roles so you don't end up with a bunch of cruft in there. But
so many plugins sneak past that, it's unbelievable, including Yoast Premium, which has been freaking out some of my some of my clients. They have custom user roles, and now they've started emailing. I'm not sure if this was always like, don't think it was, but they're like, if my SEO is not done perfectly, is that gonna change my eligibility for like this grant? It's like,
yes.
Yes, it will.
Yes,
in fact.
Yes, you need 100 across the board on your SEO.
All green lights.
Look, I have a couple of client sites that I've just opened here as we were talking about this, and I'm looking at what's in the dashboard because I don't pay attention to it all that much. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff that gets added to the dashboard.
It's a bunch of hooey.
I have a site that I'm looking at that has WooCommerce, WP Forms, Yoast, Postman, SMTP, and those all have their own dashboard panels. And
they're just sitting there confusing people.
Sitting there
maybe not the WooCommerce one.
Stuff.
The WooCommerce one is helpful because it is more of a snapshot. The snapshot of your posts, like the really basic one that's like at a glance, that is not very useful because especially if you're using a site that has like all these custom post types and stuff happening, like it doesn't reflect any of that. It only reflects just posts and drafts. And then quick edit could really cause some problems, like the quick draft. Really cause some problems because people could just be like, oh, I can just start here. And it's like not the right place or whatever. So yeah. What the hell? I haven't thought about this in so long.
What brings this up for me is the fact that I'm going to have users that are actually going to be logged into the site that aren't technical people. They just need to be able to log in and go to a very specific spot. So I'll have a user role set up. I'll make it so that they can get to that one spot. But I also want to give them essentially an area on that dashboard that explains to them, here are the things that typically are done on this site. Here are some things that you can go to. Here's maybe some quick links to get to those things. So it just makes it a little bit easier so they don't have to dig. And so that's kind of where I'm looking at with this.
So I'm assuming there's a plugin for that. In the past, what we've done is there's just a hook for creating a little dashboard widget that you can do in PHP. It's not very complicated. And so you can create and we've done this for other clients. We've created our own little dashboard widget, put it right at the top with the stuff that we want to point out. And you can also with that, I don't know if it's that same hook or a different hook, you can hide certain dashboard widgets based on user role, right? So you can take all that technical stuff and hide it for anybody that's not I can't talk today, not an admin, for instance.
Right. Yeah. One of the ones that I've used in the past, and I don't know if this is still something that people are using or not, but white label CMS. Which gives you a thing where you can actually put two different panels on the dashboard. One that could be specific to a particular role, and maybe have another one that's more for like the user side of things. For me, it's like, I want to be able to have HR go in there and add in a new hire that we've hired recently, so they're added to the list of people that work there now, because we're in an environment where we have to list all the people that work in that work at the company. So you have that sort of thing. And then also, you have job listings that we want to list onto the site so the HR can get in there and do that. And we have video people that we want to be able to upload and put stuff onto the website. So there's like a whole bunch of different, places where it's like, I just want to make sure that they're able to log in, hide all the crap that they don't need access to, and then give them some type of like instruction page that says like, here's how to use this.
My only word of caution there, and I think what you're doing is fine, but my only word of caution was something like white label CMS or Adminimizer, which is the one I pointed out in the beginning, is those plugins can tend to be heavy and can tend to alter other things within the admin interface that you're not aware of, right? And so there's a lot of things they do by default. You just might want to be careful if you're not now, I don't think Jason does this. I don't think you just throw the plugin up and then call it a day. No. But these aren't plugins you want to just install and use just for that purpose and not be aware of what else they're doing to your site.
Right.
Yeah, that's the you never want to take away like the ability to like manage your password or something like that accidentally. Adminimizer gives you a lot of control for that, which I don't think it's bad. Like I haven't had a bad experience with it. I'm using it on two client sites. And other than Yoast, me needing to go in and turn off Yoast, it's been pretty great for really keeping the what they see clean, so they don't have access to things. There are a lot of plugins, including Yoast, but a lot of other types of plugins that break through that all the time, and with their stupid alarms, I don't. It's very frustrating.
I accidentally added an R. It's adminimize. It's not adminimizer. So I put it in the chat so you can put it in the show notes. So my bad.
Now,
sorry.
Both Google and DuckDuckGo do autocorrect on that one because I don't use it. I was like, oh yeah, what's the URL for that? And I go to type it up, and it fixes it. So even if you haphazardly just typed in add minimizer WordPress, you'll find it.
Yeah.
So, but this is really what so there's a plugin called Ultimate Dashboard that I really want to check out. Full disclosure, have not yet checked this out. It has a pro version, but I like just, on cursory glance what's there. And I think that's really what we're talking about, is creating kind of this custom layout for the client. And I think that's like, that's what I was saying. It's like, it's kind of an afterthought because you're doing all this work for the site, but my focus is always like on usability and can the client use the site? Because if they can't use the site, what's the point of the site? So it makes sense to think about the dashboard because that's their entry point. That's their experience. And, even though it's an afterthought and not something that they'd be like, oh, I don't want to pay you to develop a custom dashboard, that experience will make their workflow, their confusion, their confusion less and their workflow smoother. And I'm kind of like, I've really been missing the boat on this because, I've just been kind of like, just ignore that page and go over here when it could be so much more directed and user friendly. So I'm remiss for not being on this now that I think about it.
Jason, the one you just posted, I don't have any experience with, but it actually looks kind of cool. The custom dashboard widgets.
Yeah, that one's really cool. Another one that's real simple is this one. And what this does is it gives you just a couple little. It gives you like some text on the left, a button on the right, and then actually below it, it'll show you some additional text. And it's just one little widget that's on the dashboard, and so you can get a list of some links if you're going to just be doing links. But yeah, there are a couple of these that are out there to play around with. It just really just depends on how many links you're going to have on there or what types of things you're going to be trying to explain to folks. There's one that if you use Beaver Builder that will pull in a Beaver Builder template and put it on there. There's another one that's for if you're using Gutenberg to put blocks, you could put blocks in the dashboard as well. Sweet. So, you have some options with that. I know that Divi has a couple that are like that too. So if you're wanting to customize it, you can be able to throw those things in there. It does obviously load that, essentially it's booting, Beaver Builder or whoever else that you're using into the dashboard. So now you're like adding more stuff to the dashboard. And that is really the thing to be careful about is the more of these things you add, the more third-party scripts you're introducing into the admin experience, right? And so what that does is it slows down the admin experience. And so a lot of times, my clients will say, hey, the dashboard's actually gotten really slow. Well, what it is these plugins that are customizing the dashboard that are actually slowing down the dashboard. So again,
I'd say removing them would probably be better, right? Like, does Quick Links widget, does it allow you to actually remove them, or are you just creating a new one, like a widget?
It's just creating a new one. That one's just creating a new one. Where so like the one I was looking at before.
The rest of the nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you also can't manage the boxes. Obviously, you can do the screen options thing and manage the boxes, but that's per user. So I haven't looked into this. Again, super prepared for today's show. But the idea that you could set it so that a certain level of user would automatically have those meta boxes turned off or on, because if someone else is creating a user, if they're creating a new user for their intern or whatever, they're just going to automatically see all that same stuff and then have to clean up their own dashboard, and no one knows to do that. They don't even think about it. So definitely like pre-setting user dashboard layouts could be a huge asset.
And again, there are quick ways to do this in PHP without a plugin where you can just say, don't just disable this dashboard widget for everyone. And I certainly wouldn't want to. I don't want to suggest this to the whole WordPress community, but WordPress events and news is something you might just get rid of for your client sites.
Well,
I know, blasphemy, but
no. If Jason can let me share my screen, I'll show you what my dashboard looks like. It looks like I've set this.
Well, it's just going to be empty.
Oh, dang, look at that.
I knew it.
Look at all of this like wasted real estate. So this is what I end up doing on a lot of the sites if I'm going in a lot.
Yeah.
Just get rid of them all. But then, you know, this really is an opportunity for shortcuts, for quick actions, things like that, look at all that real estate. Like, and you've got this tiny little sidebar that you're going to start to like navigate off of. And it's like, what are we doing?
So one of the things I couldn't find a good. Oh, sorry.
I was going to say this is what all of my sites look like, because like Steve said, I've hooked it so everything but the site health status is available to all users. That's all they need to see.
That's into a plugin and call it naked dashboard.
so that and there's good reason for this. I know I was kind of making fun of WordPress events and news, but we scared Say away. But that particular dashboard widget, WordPress events and news, is making a pretty heavy third-party call out to another server to get its content, right? So that by itself is something that slows down your dashboard experience.
Yeah.
Arguably also confusing content, because depending on how the user is using it, if they're looking over there and they're like, oh, it like draws your eye and it's changing. So it's like exposing people to a level of information that they may or may not be ready to dive into without any sort of context whatsoever.
Also think about it this way, right? Like I'm an agency, I'm providing a client site. Now they start showing in that events a developer meetup, right? A place for my clients to go meet my competition.
Yeah.
Right. It is. There's a lot of
or to read about WP drama in WP Tavern. All those articles come up there.
Right. Absolutely. Right. All kinds of stuff pops up in that events and news. So
one of the things I don't like about this is I hate the fact that there's no good way, and there might be a good way. There might be some do some SQL stuff or do something to make this work, but there's no good way to essentially customize the way this dashboard's going to look and then duplicate it for all the users. So any user going forward is going to inherit that layout, but all of the current users will have their custom version of the dashboard. So if they've hidden some stuff under options, or if they move some stuff around or any of that sort of thing, there's no real good way on a user's side to be able to actually make it so that you can say, like, I like this layout, screenshot it, snapshot this layout, and now do it. I know there's some ways of doing it with like a template. Yeah. And I asked in our OC WordPress group, I asked on there, I was like, hey, has anyone ever had to do this? And there were a couple responses, and for the most part, they were like, yeah, there's some serialized information that you can put in there from from that user's account that you can then go and just copy it and put it in for each of the different users. And that is not a good way. There has to be a better way to do that. And no one's built a plugin that actually does that.
Well, don't the Beaver Builder and the Divi template, like if it modifies the dashboard to be following a Divi or Beaver Builder template, then wouldn't that modify it for all users, or only for users that are created after that template is used?
No, what it does is it's for that particular. It makes it so everyone will end up having it. The thing is that it's still a customizable thing. You can still move them around and stuff. And my users, I don't want them to accidentally move something that's important to the bottom, and now they can't find it, and they're like, "Where'd it go? It's below the fold." That whole thing.
Do they actually say it's below the fold? Do they know that term, or
they know it now? Yeah, it's which
is really old. Is now a term that people like to use, and like the lay people. And I'm like, wow, we are on a real. I talk about this all the time with the developer gap, but man, that delay is strong and real. I think that must be how fashion people feel when we're like wearing, the fashions 5 years later. Like how in Devil Wears Prada, she wears teal, and then 5 years later there's teal.
Never seen it.
What?
It's just like, yeah. No.
I mean, I never saw The Social Network, so what do you do?
There you go. Another plugin that I think is in the same vein that we're talking about that I think is worth mentioning, it's not exactly related to this, is Admin Columns Pro. And it's basically a plugin for changing around how the columns display in like the post view or the pages view, those kinds of things, right? It's
Which you
really
need
handy
if you're going to use Yoast.
Well, that's what I use it for, is for turning off all those Yoast columns, which as soon as you get to anything less than a large desktop width, it makes your title go in one column for some reason, right?
Yeah.
But Admin Columns Pro is pretty handy. Now it's not it's not exactly related to the dashboard tab, but this is if you want to start customizing the user experience in the dashboard, then this is a good plugin to have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is one of those things that really make the site custom and really make the site work for the client. And it's one of those extra things that, like I said, they don't always want to pay for, but the experience is worth so much more.
It is, and this is very much a Steve comment. There can be a negative to this, right? So some agencies have their way of working and have their way of customizing the dashboard and disabling certain things and really getting in and modifying the dashboard, right? And so sometimes that's not exactly future proof, right? And so as new WordPress things come out or new plugin updates come out, it's not exactly compatible, so they'll hold back, and that it can cause things within the dashboard to break, right? And when it's the WordPress is either given over to another agency or somebody that comes from the WordPress world comes in to work on the site, there can now be a new learning curve because of all the customizations that have been done. So just be careful with it. All right. You can go overboard with it.
You need to document the modifications that you've made in the dashboard, like for any sort of future proofing.
And that documentation happens 100% of the time on every site that I inherit.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, on your site. I was laughing because I thought you were
No. I was being sarcastic. On the sites that I take over from another agency, 100% of the time it's fully documented. It's a breeze learning what the other developer did.
So I inherited a site once where the dashboard was customized to include a little meta box there that was for contacting the developer. So they actually put the developer's contact information was all in there. If you have any questions or anything like that, click on the link. The link had a mail to that went straight to their email that said, I'm contacting you from this site, which was the subject line. And then the body already had like, hey, Jason, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And it used all of the information from it. So knew who the user was that was going to send the email. It put in all the information in there. So there's those sorts of things as like a business card to use on the dashboard. It seems a little weird. I don't know.
That's useful because that also teaches the client that their site is the tool. You know what I mean? Right. It's not like there's this other, we're email tool over here. It's like the site is, and then the dashboard can become that. You can put, flag things that are important for them, let them contact you for that through there. Like you can put your ticketing systems up there. Like, I mean, honestly, I think that's great. As long as you, again, I agree with what Steve's saying, because if you get too far away from the WordPress experience, you're basically hijacking that site and not allowing it to be consistent as WordPress grows. Like there's possibility that it could flounder, like you said.
It was a must-use plugin too.
Where the abuse I think happens is not necessarily the additions like Jason's talking about, it's the subtractions. So people disabling parts of WordPress that are probably necessary for certain functions. That's where I find that it can go wrong fast. By
the way, later it's easier to take something out, especially if it's a plugin. It's harder to figure out, I mean, you can go through add minimize and go just like look at every tiny check mark in all the little toggle buttons.
Yeah, but there's also plugins that just disable one particular thing, right? And hunting down those plugins can be difficult. I put a link in. You reminded me, Jason. I put a link in the chat for supportdetails.com. This is related to what you're just talking about. So if you want to be a good beta tester and you're having an issue that you want to send to your developer or somebody on your IT team, this is a great site to just tell them exactly what browser you're on, what platform you're on, all that good stuff. This is separate from WordPress though.
Yeah.
So basically that just takes all that information that it's reading off of your computer and sends it to them. So it gives them a little snap.
But cool. in the dashboard, that one widget that I keep enabled, Site Health, will direct you. If you go to Info in Site Health, it will. There's a button now that basically you can click and copy all of your site info to the clipboard and be able to copy and paste that into. So it's wonderful that they've managed to actually make that a part of WordPress core to get help on this stuff.
I forgot about that. I haven't looked at that in a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, like I said, it's the only widget I keep up because it's the most useful. It's like, okay, is the site okay? Good. Let's move on to the next thing we need to do. But
that's
okay,
a reassuring thing.
We have a few minutes left. I don't want to derail whatever Steve's going to talk about, but let's.
Nothing important, I guarantee.
Let's get some controversial opinions out there. Out of the default options in the dashboard, with the site health, with at a glance, activity, quick draft, WordPress news and events, and welcome, what is the most useless dashboard widget?
The quick one.
Yeah,
quick draft.
Yeah, quick draft.
Yeah, actually, yeah, quick draft, because I mean it's not Gutenberg. It's Jason's favorite classic WordPress editor.
Wait, so what happens if you use that on a Gutenberg site?
I've never done it. So
Me neither. I haven't used that in so long. I don't know. Like, does it? I mean, I would assume that it would just put in a paragraph block or a classic block. That's what it probably does, right? That's weird. I don't know.
Is the bookmarklet still around? Is that still a thing? Do you remember that? It was very similar to this.
Right? Where you could do the quick one.
Yeah, you could do a quick draft with a bookmark. I bet that's still buried deep in the code somewhere that does the exact same thing. The bookmarklet.
I still have some that are floating in my. I bet you I could load one up right now because I have one bookmarked for one of my old websites to be able to just like do a quick little blog roll type thing.
If you bookmark a bookmarklet, does that cause a rift in the space-time continuum?
Only if it goes to delicious.
Does the activity box, this is something I really do just ignore the dashboard. Like I realized now when we were talking about this, how much I ignore this dashboard. So like I've got a site, like this client site over here that's, it's super active and the activity box has no activity yet. Is that just Jetpack that like isn't function? I don't even know what's happening.
I'm going to if you're looking at your dashboard right now, I'm actually I agree that quick draft is the most useless, but if you go to your screen options, there is a checkbox that is probably disabled for welcome.
Yeah. That gets disabled after the first time.
After you dismiss it, but that is a dashboard widget. It is welcome, and it basically it's when you first get to WordPress if you haven't dismissed it.
Also, the what's on your mind question.
That's a 12. That's blinking 12 on a VCR.
Exactly.
The quick draft widget says "What's on your mind," which is like very Facebook 2015 or.
What's on your? Oh, that's the placeholder text inside of the content. What's on your mind?
Your mind. Nothing. I don't know. Just hanging out.
Yeah.
Writing a quick draft. NBD.
I should point out that the welcome widget is the only one that actually has a dismiss button on it. Like you can actually click dismiss and get rid of it. Everything else you have to
arguably would make it the best widget that's there, right? So it could be the worst and the best at the same time. And I can't say arguably, so Say is laughing at me.
Honestly, the welcome widget, now that I'm looking at it, because again, I always just get rid of that stuff. It actually, in terms of the next steps and the more actions that it's got going on over here, edit your front page, edit pages, view your site, in terms of like quick links, that those could actually be helpful. And that's actually the type of little, just here's some quick links to go to your different sections, add a product, check your sales, look at your form entries. Like that could be that same format could be something that would be great in a plugin. I guess the plugins do it, but it would be nice to be able to customize that.
Yeah, it would actually be really nice to be able to say, like, okay, well, they've written their first blog post, they've added an about page. Like, what are the next steps after that?
Well,
that would be
that's
way too smart.
Isn't it Profit? I thought it was Profit.
Too smart.
No, WordPress.com has that whole thing where it's got a little countdown and helps you set up your site. But the problem is, like, a lot of the sites that we're working for and creating for clients, like, we don't need them to be led through that onboarding. We've already done that. So that doesn't have the one size fits all thing that, fits well on a WordPress.com site.
It doesn't work for our clients, but for the standard end user, I bet it would help.
Oh, I wonder.
And with that, I'm going to lead you to our outro. So thank you very much for hanging out with us. I appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. See ya.
Bye. Hey.
Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe and subscribe to our content over there. We'd really appreciate it. We are a podcast as well, so if you're listening to us as a podcast, leave us a review. We'd love to see that review. Thanks. Bye-bye.